it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Summerween. This is the Summerween vlog. I look forward to this week every single year. It's so much fun. I hate the summer. I absolutely hate it. I hate it when the temperature is above like 72 degrees. I am a polar bear. I have definitely been missing the autumnal vibes. I'm ready to read some thrillers and some horror in order to pretend like it's not summer and actually it's fall and actually everything is fine and dandy. If you don't know, Summerween is a readathon. It's hosted by Gabby. I'll have all of that information linked in the description box, but basically the point of the readathon is to read horror and thrillers in the summer. We're bringing the fall vibes into the summer. So there are actually some prompts that go along with this readathon, but I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I never ever use the prompts. And you know what? Like, that's not a violation of the rules. Gabby says it's okay. You don't have to do any of the prompts if you don't want to. As long as you're reading horror or thrillers, you're good. So I am once again, like I do every year, just going to ignore all of the prompts because I frankly don't care what they are. I already know what books I want to read. The first book I'm going to be reading is The Angel of Indian Lake. This is by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the third and I believe the final book in the Lake Witch trilogy. I have been saving this book for now. It's been out for, I think, like a month and a half. Stephen Graham Jones is my all-time favorite horror author. I loved the first two books in this series. Jade is one of my all-time favorite characters. She's the main character in this series. This is definitely what I'm going to be starting off with. If I manage to finish that up, then I'm going to be moving on to How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix I have a little bit more of a hit and miss history with, but there's just something about his writing style that really appeals to me. So even when I don't absolutely love his books, I still enjoy the process of reading them because of the way he writes. I think he is very talented. I think even if I don't love this, that I will enjoy my time here. And I do think that this actually has the potential to be a 5-star horror read. This is a book that has to do with grief, and that is a theme that I like in books. I know that there's like some creepy puppets in this, which is definitely something that I'm into in a horror novel. So the potential is there. We will see if the execution can pull it off. Okay, welcome to the vlog. I just finished my stream, so I'm gonna go take my makeup off and I'm gonna start The Angel of Indian Lake, and I will talk to you when I have something interesting to say and tell you what that book is about. Happy Summerween! morning. So it is now the 7th. So welcome to day 3 of Summerween. I'm not making very good progress. I'm only on page 87 in The Angel of Indian Lake. We're having a little bit of a slow start to Summerween. Yesterday evening we went to Jake's grandma's house because that's when the fireworks were scheduled for, so we watched that. I don't like fireworks. I wish we would just do away with them, but I like spending time with family, and I mean, I guess they were pretty enough. I do have on my pumpkin head t-shirt in honor of Summerween. I figured I will do just a quick update for The Angel of Indian Lake. Not really anything crazy has happened, like a little bit crazy, but for Stephen Graham Jones, not that crazy. This is the 3rd book in a series. The first one is My Heart is a Chainsaw. You follow Jade, and she is an outcast in school. She's 17. She's in her senior year of high school. She doesn't really quite fit in, and she also doesn't necessarily know how exactly to interact with people around her. She's pretty awkward, and kind of as a way to relate but also as a defense mechanism, Jade convinces herself in the first book that a real life slasher is about to go down. Jade is an absolutely massive fan of horror movies, but in particular the slasher genre. That is what she uses as a way to interact with the world, but also as kind of a buffer between her and the world. It's a defense mechanism. And wouldn't you know it, some crazy shit goes down in book 1. In book 1, there's also these new families that have moved to Proof Rock. Just a couple of families, I think 5 in total, and they're super rich, and they have bought this land and they are building these mega luxury, they're not mansions, but they're very luxurious houses. And one of those families has a daughter Jade's age, and Jade, because of the way she interacts with the world, convinces herself that this girl is gonna be the final girl in this slasher that's about to go down in real life. I love Stephen Graham Jones's writing style. He's just one of my favorite authors. I think he's so extremely talented. Sometimes, not in all of his books, but sometimes he does write in a very stream of consciousness type of way, and that is how he wrote My Heart is a Chainsaw, because you're in Jade's head, and so you're just hearing all of her internal thoughts. I loved the writing style. I loved how slow My Heart is a Chainsaw starts, and how we got to spend so much time with Jade and be introspective with her and really get to know her, and the emotional payoff was just spectacular. I'm so attached. As you can see, it's been years and Jade is still one of my favorite characters. I'm just really loving being back with Jade. I think it's very interesting too, the journey that Jade has been on, because in the first book, Jade is just observing everything around her for the majority of the book, and I think if it works for you, you're gonna love it, and if it doesn't, you're gonna hate it. That's why the first book is so polarizing. But the first book is a lot about vindication for Jade. In the first book, Jade is very much convinced that she cannot be the final girl because she isn't pretty enough conventionally. She's not popular enough. She's not, she's not meeting the stereotypical final girl thing. In book 2, we the reader are kind of no, Jade, you can totally be a final girl. You're definitely final girl material, and we're all cheering for her. This 3rd book so far has been about what it's like to survive the 2 absolutely traumatic massacres that happened in books 1 and 2. In this 3rd book, the tone is so very different. I'm really loving it because we are back with Jade, and we have that same feel that book one had. Very, very introspective. Jade is dealing with a lot of PTSD and mental health issues because of everything that she's been through. And also because of what happened in book 1 and 2, she has had 2 stints in prison, and like that in and of itself is also traumatizing for her. She is now out. She's back in Proof Rock, and she is working as a history teacher at the local high school, and really just trying to find some sort of semblance of normalcy. I love that we're back with introspective Jade, that she is looking at her life. It feels a little bit fourth wall, a little bit meta-y, which I really, really like. It's like she'll have like a panic attack, and in her own head she'll be almost like disassociating watching herself have a panic attack. And so like you can see and experience both the Jade that is panicking, but also the Jade that is like, come on, we can do this. Think about what your therapist said. I don't want anything bad to happen anymore. Jade is tired. I am tired for her. The community is tired. I just want Jade to be able to have a happy life. I just want her to be able to live happily ever after, watching her horror movies and chain smoking her cigarettes. It's a horror novel, so we know something is gonna go down, but I think that that shift in tone is very important for us as the reader, because we kind of have been cheering her as a hero in the other books, and now we are seeing the cost of being a hero. Another fun thing too is that Proof Rock, Idaho, there's a lot of history of tragedies that have happened in this town. There's a lot of ghost stories surrounding Proof Rock, and one of the ghost stories is about the Angel of Indian Lake, and there have been like some sightings of the angel, and people aren't really sure what necessarily is going on. And the chapter that I just finished seems to indicate that things are about to go down. I'm gonna go wash my stream makeup off, and I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna read a little bit. I don't have a stream plan for tomorrow, so I'm hoping that between now and then like the end of tomorrow I can finish this book. I've got like over 300 pages left, so I don't know if I can, but I need to get going. It's time to shut up and read. So, I have a lot to talk about. It's now the 10th. I only have a day and a half left. I bet you saw that I went to Barnes & Noble. So, okay, first of all, I haven't been to Barnes & Noble in so very, very long. I only went because I needed to pick up a gift, but obviously, I bought a book for myself. This was on my anticipated releases for the year. It's called A Botanical Daughter, and it is sort of like inspired by Frankenstein, if my memory is correct, this is about two men who are in love and build themselves a daughter. It's supposed to be very gothic and very inspired by Frankenstein, which is a book that I absolutely love. I want to say it released actually all the way back in February, but I refused to let myself buy it because, if you know, I am on book buying restrictions this year. But there's only so much I can do. I'm only human, okay? I had a moment of weakness. In other news though, my copy of Blood Feast came in. It's beautiful. It's here. It's signed and personalized to me. I have already read this. I talked about this in 2 separate videos, so I don't need to go into it. Anyways, you guys mostly care about the horror this week. So I am this far into The Angel of Indian Lake. I'm on the first page of the chapter of Death and Love, which is 283 pages into the book. This one is hurting. Obviously, that is an intentional choice. Stephen Graham Jones loves the horror genre. He loves horror movies. He loves slasher movies. A big part of this trilogy is a love letter to horror movies, which I only understand probably about like 50 of the references. I do not watch any horror movies, and it's simply because if I see something visually, I will dream about it, which means that I don't read any horror manga. I do not watch any horror television. I do not watch horror movies. I do not play horror games because I will dream about them, and that is nightmares. And I already have enough nightmares just from having general anxiety, so I don't need to add that on top of it. I love horror novels because they don't give me nightmares. They're just words on the page. My brain edits out the truly horrific things for me, and you know, my brain doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. So I am thankful that it just decides to do that one favor for me. But each part of this trilogy, in addition to being a love letter to the horror movie entire genre, I swear to God, this man knows more about horror movies than any other human on the planet. I'm still on the internet enough and tuned into like the general horror like area of books that I know a lot of the tropes of the genre, and like also, you know, when a movie is like 20 years old, you just kind of naturally, when you exist on the internet, like encounter spoilers, and so like you kind of like know what's happening. And so like even though I don't understand all the nuances and like the intricacies of the references, I at least have like the general gist. I still love the series, even though I'm sure I don't pick up on half of the Easter eggs involved. But what I love about this is that it is a love letter to the horror genre, but yet it also plays with the tropes, and sometimes it lives up to them, sometimes it turns them on its head. Because it's Stephen Graham Jones, you never really know which trope he's going to subvert and which one he's going to lean into. So here's the thing. In book 1, Jade, I want to say, is 17, and she literally has no friends. She is very much an outcast in town. She is constantly initiating pranks and like putting herself out there to get in trouble intentionally. She's very antagonistic to authority figures. That is reflected in the way book 1 hits the themes of the slasher and the final girl tropes. So much of the themes within this series are wrapped up in where Jade is in her life. And in book 2, she kind of returns to Proof Rock, and some people there think that she is the villain. Some people think she is a hero because of what happened in book 1. But Jade finally has a couple of people to hang on to, a couple of people that she loves. But now in book 3, it's not right when she's released from prison. Like, she has been a part of this town for I don't know, like 8 or 9 months or something like that now. She's been living back in this town. She's now the history teacher, which is very appropriate when you consider how much she used to butt heads with like the old history teacher. A lot of her internal monologue is talking to that old history teacher, talking about how she used to be and how her students are now, looking at life through a different lens. But the main difference is that now Jade is a part of this community. She has her students that she cares for. She has people that she sees in her everyday life. She has people that are authority figures in town, and you know, she cares about them. They are her friends. This time around, Jade has so much more to lose, and this book is very bloody. I don't know what the body counts are of all the individual books, but this one will probably have the highest by the end of the book. It's extremely bloody. Because Jade is so much more connected to the community, the deaths in this book, they have true impact on the reader, and like it hurts. And the loss that Jade goes through in this book hurts. It really gets at your heart. I am in awe of Stephen Graham Jones' writing with how he is able to mirror the change in Jade to the tonal change within the books, how we, the reader, view everything and are impacted by everything that's going on around Jade. But like, it's also so interesting to see how like each point in Jade's life, each of these 3 books in the trilogy has something valuable to say about community and about the horror genre as a whole and what it does to us, and also about trauma and healing and grief and families and love. I also wanted to say that I don't necessarily remember the specifics in book 2, but book 1, a lot of the killing scenes, a lot of the horrific scenes, there was like a certain element of like camp to them. Like they very much felt like a slasher, in like the it's horrific, but like it's so horrific that it becomes like Kill Bill like camp, where like there's just blood and guts everywhere, and if you stop to think about it, you're like, oof, oh, that's a... But at the same time, there's a certain camp. I don't know if that was really in book 2, but I will say it's definitely back in book 3. And I think the camp in book 1 served very well, because like it was, you know, the first book in a slasher horror trilogy with Jade as this main character. And I think in book 3 the camp is also working so well for completely different reasons, because Jade is so different now, because she has grown up and she has been changed by everything that's happened to her. She views everything around her through a more adult lens, and there's just something that works about the absolute camp of some of these kills in juxtaposition with how horrific it is for Jade and also the reader. I don't know how to put it into words. Someone who's like more knowledgeable in the horror genre will probably know. It's like the more camp the kill is, the more it drives home how horrific it is in this book. Like I said, I only have a day and a half left of this, so honestly my plan today is just to try to finish this book. I will talk to you when it's done. Hello, it is many hours later, and I have finished this absolute wonderful masterpiece of an absolutely heartbreaking book. A lot of the themes of this book kind of incorporate the idea of revenge versus justice and culpability, but also this book talks a lot about like the cycles of violence. I think this book has a lot to say about the final girl trope in ways that I feel are validating as a woman reading the horror genre. To be honest, I have always kind of felt that Stephen Graham Jones is like very respectful of women in his books. Not to say that like women don't die, because everybody dies. No one is inherently safe in a Stephen Graham Jones book, so like know that going into it. There's a lot of bodies in this series, but like also in like his other books too. Like no one is really ever safe. But even though no one's safe, I feel like Stephen Graham Jones is very respectful and cognizant of how women are treated within the horror genre. I think that that really is shown in this trilogy. Jade is a woman. I mean, like terrible shit happens, but I feel like Stephen Graham Jones wrote her with so much respect and empathy for her as a woman, as a character within the genre that she is a part of. I think you can just like tell the care that he put into her with what her trauma and what she goes through, like how he uses that to speak about healing and violence and again, just speaking to the horror genre. I said this earlier, but he both like leans into and also subverts so many of the tropes. There's a lot in here about community and about relationships and about love and grief, and also like absolutely like justifiable rage. Ooh, there's some really good rage moments in here. This book just encompasses so many different emotions. Jade is such a compelling character because she's so erratic, but like also her heart is so big, and her heart has been too big for her for the entire series. There are so many times that Jade gets up, picks up the pieces of herself, and moves forward through the fire because her heart is just too big. I just love her. I'm gonna get emotional. Okay, we're not crying right now. We're not gonna do that. I was gonna say something else that was like profound and made me sound like I was an intelligent human that has a point reviewing books and like you all should listen to me. And now I can't because all I'm thinking about is how emotional Jade makes me, and this is not fair. Oh, okay, I remember. This book also talks a lot about healing and how healing is so messy. There is like this one line that Stephen Graham Jones wrote, and I wish that I would have like tabbed it at the moment because it's just so perfect. I'm gonna try to like paraphrase, but basically Jade is talking about how when you have been through trauma, you build up this armor, and in order to move past that, in order to heal from the trauma, oftentimes, and like obviously everybody's healing process is different, trauma for everyone is different, but oftentimes when you are healing from trauma, you have to break down parts of that armor that you built to keep yourself safe. Because this is a horror book, Jade talks about how you have to just like rip yourself out of your own skin and how exposed that makes you feel and how vulnerable, because now like all of your soft tissue is outside where it's not supposed to be. And it was just like the perfect example, in my opinion, of part of the healing process and how messy healing is and how non-linear it is. Sometimes healing is learning to live with something because there's some things, you know, that you just can't necessarily walk past. And sometimes it's just about learning how to carry that and who in your life can help you carry that. Stephen Graham Jones is not a purple prose author, but there's something about the way that he uses horror to write about human emotions that I think is really, really beautiful. And like I talked about, like Jade's thinking that you have to like yank yourself out of your own skin. Like that's like a really, really gruesome thing. But like there's something about it that just works. And like the overall way that Stephen Graham Jones wrote it was like weirdly beautiful. I don't know what to tell you. It just is. So yeah, I love this book with all my heart. I love Jade. She will forever be one of my favorite characters in the entire world. I really, really highly, highly recommend this series. I think it's so fantastic. Now I can also say that I finished this series, so I can check that off of the series that I have been reading since, I think like the first book came out in 2020. I've been reading this series for a while and now I'm finally finished. I know I originally said that I also wanted to read How to Sell a Haunted House this week. That is obviously not happening. I accepted that earlier in the week. I hope you can also accept that. I am hoping that like maybe later this month I will be able to get to it because I desperately need to read that book, but it's not happening during Summerween. This has still been a fantastic Summerween. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you enjoyed your time here. If you participated in Summerween, let me know what books you read. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Be safe this week, stay hydrated this week, and I'll see you with another video soon. Goodbye!